should be able to answer why you're doing it to 3 levels. So if you want to add a button, why are you adding that button? Okay, fine. The answer is there. But why do you think that need arises? And then why do you think that happens? So if you're able to answer that why 3 times, it's usually good enough. Because then if you question yourself, then you'll come up with something better if it's not the best solution.
So hi Rutul and welcome to the Samar Show podcast. And looking for the amazing conversation with you. So Rutul, can you please give a short intro about yourself to all our listeners as well as audience out there?
Definitely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm Rutul. I'm a final year student at Bitspilani, and I'm currently working as a product management intern here at Hacker in Bangalore.
So Rutul, can you please share your college journey, like how your college journey so far, what sort of clubs or activities you are participated during your college? And I think you are in the final year. So you have done lots of things during your college. So please share with us.
So I think in my first and second year, like you don't really do much. Like you just kind of chill, you hang out. But after that, we have this cultural festival. It's called Oasis. It's actually it's one of the nicest fests in India. So I was part of the core committee for that. It was supposed to happen in 2020, but then COVID happened.
Okay.
So that ended up being cancelled. Apart from that, I was part of the placement unit. So I was in charge of pitching companies, getting them down to placements, handling all of that stuff. And I played badminton every now and then, and I just hung out with friends. It's basically my college life.
Same, I'm also a badminton player, but
nice.
In class level, in cluster, I have appeared for the cluster level. Then after that, फिर boards के exam हो गए तो छोड़ना पड़ा. But I'm just continuing on a daily basis. So on a daily basis, 1 hour enough to play with some of my friends. So nice.
That's nice.
So Rutul, can you please tell us how did you get into the product management field? What inspired you to be into the product management field, and how did you get started? There is kind of a product management. So please share your experience about getting into the product management.
So I think the shift kind of happened around my third year. So I was never really into core engineering, and I'm assuming that's true for a lot of people, right?
Okay.
So let's look at alternatives. What do we have? So I'm an economics student, so the obvious choice was let's look at finance, let's look at core economics, let's look at consulting, let's look at this, that. And then I saw a few seniors, they were talking about product management, and that kind of sparked a bit of curiosity.
Okay.
But I don't have a tech background, right? But it was okay, you can basically work in a tech company, but you don't need to have a tech background. That was something that was kind of exciting.
Okay.
So there's this book called Cracking the PM Interview. It's a very nice introductory book, and a senior gave his copy to me, and I read the book, and it was definitely interesting. And from there I sort of decided, no finance, no consulting, that stuff's not for me. And I started exploring startups. And I think the biggest obstacle was that to get into product roles, you need to have some sort of experience. Right. You can't just say, hi, I'm a third year student, please give me a product internship. They'll ask you, why do you deserve the internship? So I worked at this startup called Airmeet. It's a very nice startup. I worked there as a growth intern. So a growth intern is basically sales, marketing, and the back end of sales. So it's not a very front end role.
So how did you get into the Airmeet? What about the Airmeet process? कैसे select किया तुम्हें?
I just saw a job opening. I applied for that, and the interview was fairly straightforward. It was a business strategy they asked for, and since I already had experience with pitching and a few other things like that, I was able to kind of handle that. So because of that, Airmeet happened. I worked at Airmeet for 5-6 months, I think. And then after that, you kind of get a good idea of how businesses work, right? because whenever customers have any issues, they have some requirements, they come up to the growth team, the sales team, and they're like, okay, this is what's wrong in the product, we want you to fix it. And then it's your job to pass it on to the product team. So I was lucky enough to have a lot of interactions with the product team. I was able to see how decisions were made. So even though that didn't really give me like a good sense of product management itself, it gave like a decent idea of how decisions are made. If that makes sense. So like I could leverage that in like future interviews from product management. And so yeah, that's basically like the first step. Then after that, I worked at this startup called Newton School. I worked there for a couple of months. It was a summer internship, and that was like that process was basically like they asked you standard product management questions. So it was like a root cause analysis and a product thinking question. And over there, a lot of the work was it was like business oriented. So essentially, they'd give problem statements around, okay, we have to build this, but we want to see if it makes sense. So it still wasn't exactly like core product management, but it was still like my first taste of real game work, if that makes sense, right? And then like throughout this, by the way, I think something that's kind of important is to have a prep buddy and like a mentor of sorts. So like a prep buddy can just be someone you practice cases with, someone you read with, someone to share information with, back and forth. And a mentor is obviously like self-explanatory, someone who can guide you down the right paths, someone who will tell you, okay, prioritize this or that or this. Like, that is something that's kind of important, especially with product management. And I was lucky enough to have both of those things going on for me. And then from there, I landed like my first like solid product management internship, which was at Leap Finance, Leap Scholar. And over there, like I built my first own product, and like I was able to ship that, and that was like a cool feeling. It was like a no-code platform for like some internal thing, but yeah, the feeling when you ship your first product is always kind of nice. And that's when I kind of realized how important having experience is, because if you build stuff, you kind of iterate over it, right? And that gives you that sense of, okay, this is working, this is not working. And that's something mock interviews or just ideation alone can't do. So that's why it's also important to get your hands dirty, build stuff. There's more than enough resources available on using like no-code platforms or like this very basic HTML, CSS, just like build a website yourself, something like that. But those things usually tend to help. But yeah, then I continued working at Leap for a while. And then finally I joined HackerRank in January.
Okay. So that's nice. So you are currently a PM intern at HackerRank, and which recently got Series D funded about $60 million. So yeah, that's great. So how did you reach out to HackerRank? Or you directly go to their career page and apply there, or you will get some kind of referral from the employers? So what is the complete hiring process of the HackerRank?
So I already knew HackerRank existed, and I saw like a random job opening sometime in November. It was that hey, like HackerRank is looking for product management intern, and I knew a person who was working there. Like she's like a batchmate of mine, so I just reached out to her. I asked her for a referral, and I applied. And the recruiter got back to me and she said, "Hey, we'd like to schedule an interview." So the first round, it was just like a basic round. It was resume grilling. It was basic product sense. So by product sense, what I mean is be ready for questions like, what is your favorite product? Which product do you not like? Take your favorite product. What 3 changes would you make in it? Basically stuff like that.
So they are going to deep dive into that answer. Yeah, you just have to give a simple answer around which product is your favorite one. Or you have to give an explanation why favorite, what are the features, everything about it.
No, so the idea behind the question is that if you have a favorite product, or if you have a favorite app, it can be anything, right? Like just take WhatsApp for example. If you're saying, okay, WhatsApp is something you use a lot and it's your favorite product, then you should be able to tell the other person 3 things you like about it or 3 things you don't like about it, right? Like that is the basic requirement over here, that whatever product is there, you should be able to kind of criticize it and make it better. So that is why this question is asked. Like, do you see scope for improvement in your favorite product? That's the kind of idea behind that.
Okay. So this is the first round, and what about other rounds?
Yeah. So the second round, it was like the deck making round. So a topic was given, and I was given like a week to improve the product. Like it was like a broad problem statement. Like I don't think I can disclose the problem statements.
Yeah, sure.
So it's like basically some XYZ parameters are given, and it is like improve the product within these parameters. And I had a week to make a deck. So within the deck, like the expectation was to create like a very basic markup. Just you can't really convey points using only text, right? So you have to know at least like the basics of Photoshop, Illustrator, or like Figma is every designer is different. So knowing the basics of one of those 3 tools is usually very helpful. And after that, basically after the deck round, it was the final round was like a deck grill round, where there were like 2 product managers in the company, and they kind of asked me questions, asked me my rationale behind the product improvements I had suggested. And yeah, the whole idea behind that is just to see how deep you've thought through, how many edge cases you've considered, why you've thought about it the way it has. So I think a good rule of thumb is whenever you're making like a product deck, you should be able to answer why you're doing it to 3 levels. So if you want to add a button, why are you adding that button? Okay, fine. The answer is there. But why do you think that need arises? And then why do you think that happens? So if you're able to answer that why 3 times, it's usually good. Because then if you question yourself, then you'll come up with something better if it's not the best solution. And yeah, that was like the final round. Then I started in Jan.
So how many product managers are there as an intern? I think I have also checked out, but recently I think they have hired around not many product managers, but yeah, in a good amount. So how many do you think there are product managers in your team? Yeah.
So in my team, it's only me and my manager. We are like the only 2 product folks there. But I think overall, there's like 12 or 13 product managers, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, that's cool. And yeah, have you ever made case study before the hackering wala part? Yeah, you have already made lots of case studies. Okay.
Yes, so as I mentioned, right, like you need to kind of have practice. So I did participate in a few case studies. I made a few decks for a few other companies before that as well. So yeah, it definitely was my first step.
Okay. So can you please share the method or a framework to build a good case studies, and how can we build a good case study so that it would accept by the lots of interviewers? So any kind of advice or suggestions you can give to the viewers about the case study part?
To be honest, most case studies, right, they'll either revolve around the company's product itself, or they'll give you like a very, very generic problem statement. And the problem statement will be something like, what product do you think should be digitized and why? It'll be something like that, like, or what service should be digitized and why? So obviously in those problem statements, like you just have to kind of play to your strengths, play to what you know. For all other cases, right, when it's company specific or product specific, the best way to go forward is just to use the product as much as you can. Because that's what it is, right? Like trust me, from the outside, right, like within 2 or 3 days, there's almost like a 99% chance that you're not going to come up with something that the product managers there have already thought of. Like whatever idea you're going to come up with, they've probably already thought about it, right? So it's not just the idea itself, it's just why you're picking what you are to kind of change, right? So let's take like a random example. Let's take WhatsApp again, right? So if you have to make a deck on WhatsApp and you say, okay, I don't think disappearing messages should be a thing. okay, fine. Like WhatsApp might get like 100x at data. So it just comes down to how well you can defend it. So that is like the key, in my opinion. And yeah, obviously, like you want your deck to look good and you want it to stand out, and it has to be easy to read, avoid grammatical mistakes. Those are like very basic things. But in general, I think being able to answer the question why you want to do that is more important.
Yeah.
And in general, even if it's not asked in the question strict, always kind of consider the metrics for success. Like, why would you consider your implementation of that feature successful? That is like a very important question to answer. So understanding that is also important. And again, like that just comes from this. So for that, you need to kind of talk to people, understand how this stuff works.
Yeah, that's great advice, and I hope everyone will follow this. And yeah, moving on to our next question, what kind of space do you work in the HackerRank? What sort of responsibilities do you have as a product manager in HackerRank? Yeah,
I'm still an intern, but yeah, it's mainly around the user experience part of things. So like user experience is basically self-explanatory, but let's say you want to make a WhatsApp call, right? So the number of steps you have to make from opening WhatsApp to making that call, making sure that entire thing is seamless is kind of what I've mainly been focusing on these past 3 months.
Yeah, that's good. And as we know that product manager, there is no certain roadmap to become a product manager. Because जैसे कि कोई भी सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट होता है उसको फिर स्टार्टिंग करते हैं कि हाँ यू हैव टू नो एनी टेक्निकल स्किल्स या एनी कोड एनी लैंग्वेज, यू हैव टू बी गुड इन एनी सर्टेन काइंड ऑफ लैंग्वेज, देन यू हैव टू लॉट्स ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट, फिर तुम अप्लाई करते हो. बट इन प्रोडक्ट मैनेजमेंट फील्ड कोई सर्टेन रोड मैप नहीं है या पाथ वे नहीं है. सो व्हाट सॉर्ट ऑफ basic skills do you have before applying to any PM roles out there? Yeah, any skill set for the product management? Yep.
Yeah, I think product understanding is the most critical skill. Like, because that's all product management is, right? Like you're either improving something, you're building something new, and everything you're doing, more often than not, the objective behind implementing that is going to be revenue. And for revenue to be impacted, you need customers to be happy. So understanding that is the most important aspect of it. It's not just like building beautiful features and building beautiful web pages that have no functionality, right? So understanding the scope of the role you're applying for is very important. Like, for example, like I mentioned, like I'm a UX PM, so there's a technical PM, there's like a bunch of different kinds of product managers, like a front-end PM, back-end PM. Okay. Like there's no like fixed thing. So understanding what the role requires and kind of making sure you sell yourself accordingly is very, very important. Like if it's a UX role and you're saying, yes, I can code in 6 different languages and like I am very technically competent, that won't matter at all. So yeah, definitely understand the role you're applying for.
Yeah, that's a good advice. And main part ki you must understand the customer need and good problem solver at the end.
Exactly.
And as you told that ki the product manager have different sectors, like koi technical hota hai ya koi UX hota hai. So in the technical part, do you think you must have a good technical understanding, or you must have a good understanding of languages or other technical skill set to apply for any product role?
It definitely helps, to be honest. Like, because more like at the end of the day, as a product manager, you're gonna have to work with developers, right? Yeah. And the developers will present different scopes to you, they'll present different limitations to you, and it's your job to kind of make sure you educate yourself to understand that and understand those limitations. So yeah, I definitely do think upskilling yourself technically can never ever work. And that's something I'm doing right now, because I was also in that boat where I didn't have a lot of technical knowledge.
Means you must have knowledge about technical terms ki APIs
Yeah.
kya hote hain, matlab basic terms kind
No,
of.
no, 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 no.
Okay.
Like understanding how stuff works. Like you don't need to know the definition. Like
Okay.
you need to understand why what's happening is happening. Right.
Why part is very important. Kyun ho raha
Yeah,
hai.
exactly.
That's great. As you have already worked in Leap Finance, Air Meet, and Newton School, so what sort of challenges do you face during your PM intern journey? Any kind of challenges if you face, you can share.
Yeah, I think understanding the scope is very, very interesting. It's an interesting problem statement because you go from like just a random student to being responsible for a product that might bring in like 1 lakh rupees next month, right? So that part is kind of challenging, like understanding that okay, like you're the one who's responsible for making this change, and like basically the taking ownership part of it, right? That is something that comes at you like as a shock, I think sometimes. Apart from that, to be honest, I've been kind of lucky. Like I've always had very good mentors. So if I've ever been stuck somewhere, like they just helped me out. Like even at my previous stints, even here right now. So like whenever I have a question regarding the project I have, I just kind of ping them and ask them, and they help me out. So yeah, in general, I think like those are things you kind of worry about at a later stage, but there's nothing that kind of sticks out to me at least personally.
Okay, that's nice. And yeah, and you can tell us about your day-to-day life of a PM intern. Like you are currently interning as a HackerRank. So what is your day-to-day life as a PM in HackerRank? Yeah. Like daily schedule
Yeah,
kya hota
so
hai? Yeah, are there any meetings you have to attend? Yeah, working on some case studies. So you can share it with us.
Yeah, so I think the daily life is, and I think a lot of PMs and PM interns will agree with this, it's a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think my day starts off at anywhere between 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. depending on the day and like the meetings I have. And it's usually a meeting with the design team, meeting with the tech team, and then we have this thing called a stand-up. So a stand-up is where everyone in your team comes together and they discuss their tasks for the day. And then after that, there's usually like a 2 to 3 hour window where I get most of my work done. So there's no meetings during that time. And then after that, around 3:30 to 4, I usually just have a bunch of catch-up meets to kind of, discuss some blockages I might have had during the day, or just discuss a few things like for the next day with whoever I have to work with. That's kind of how the workflow works. So it's like meets, empty time to work, and then meets again.
Yeah, that's nice. And can you please share some of the resources which help you to get into the PM intern in HackerRank? Any kind of resources? It could be books or videos, website, blogs. So yeah, you can share it with us.
Yeah. So I think I already mentioned Cracking the PM Interview.
Yeah.
So that's like a good book to get started. Then there's this book called Decode and Conquer. Okay. That's also a very nice book. I think it's by the same author. So those two books are like usually the go-to starting points. Then there's another book. Wait one second, I'll just remember the name. It's called Swipe to Unlock.
Swipe to Unlock. I also read this book last month. It's about technical everything, how work, how why. Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah, it's the best place to start for someone who isn't very technical but wants to get into the product. And yeah, I really like that book. Apart from that, I think there's this YouTube channel called Exponent. Yeah, they have a lot of good videos. They have a lot of good mock interviews as well. Then there's a bunch of communities as well. There's like PM School. There's a few others. I'm forgetting the name right now. Sorry. They all have PM in their name.
Yeah, the product folks. Yeah.
And all of these also have a community aspect where you can kind of sit and discuss with other folks as well. I think the product folks also has a Slack channel, so you can join that as well. Yeah, and I think these are like good resources to get started. If you've already exhausted those, I think just get into mock interviews. Like find a buddy, find a mentor, find like someone who'll help you out, and just start doing mocks. Do like 2-3 mock interviews a day, and it'll just be like a cycle where you can understand what mistakes you're making and improve and improve. So I think that's the most important.
Yeah, that's a good set of resources shared by you. That's good. And I have also noticed that most of the bit students are into PM role. So is there any similarities between you? Lots of students I've seen, everyone goes into bits. Like one of my friend is in bits Goa, and he's currently, I think, MPL intern, PM intern. So yeah. So is there anything similar?
I think
is there any community around the bits key only focus on PM part? Yeah.
It's just the culture, to be honest. Like I mentioned, right? Like if your friend is doing something, you'll be kind of inclined to explore that. And if your senior is doing something, they'll tell you about it. You'll be, oh, okay, this sounds interesting. So I think the tech, product, and consulting cultures in our colleges are pretty strong. And because of that, especially in the past couple of years, it's picked up a lot. And in general, I think bits tend to look out for each other. So that's why we have like a small edge in general.
That's nice. I think there is a good community or network around the bit students. That's
yeah.
And would you like to share some of what other stuffs you do beyond your work or studies to keep yourself motivated or for some kind of idea creation? For example, like in my free time, I just record videos or reels on the Instagram, or cooking ho gaya, ya playing badminton. So what sort of activities you do in your free time?
Like as I mentioned in the introduction, right, I play badminton. So I try to play like 2-3 times a week. I don't play as often as you do, but yeah, I do play every now and then. I'm into Formula One. I really like going in like the Formula One world whenever I'm taking a break, watching races, qualifying, all of that, and just like browsing Reddit, reading like random threads. Apart from that, I've been reading a few books also recently, just like general books, not like related to product management, good to great or like stuff like that. And yeah, like I watch YouTube videos. I basically I don't have like any fixed things. I just do things as I feel them.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, and let's discuss about the PM career. For example, earlier I thought after you done your MBA, then you will apply for the PM. मतलब ये मेरा around second year तक myth था कि हाँ after MBA कर लो फिर तुम PM के लिए apply कर सकते हो. But then I check out into the LinkedIn and Twitter and found that lots of students are doing PM intern like you हो गया या my friends, lots of there. Then I get an insight that this is a good role to apply. So I also started my preparation from around 3 to 4 months to explore the PM field, because I'm also fed up with the technical concept part. I'm a CS grad and I think this is my final year. And so I have tried lots of different things कि WebD हो गया, Android development हो गया, but किसी में भी interest नहीं था. Then finally I reach out to the point कि product management. So yeah, it's a great field to explore because you are solving a problem on a larger scale and impact the societies. So this is a great career to start. So my question is, for a young graduate out which recently graduate from their school, from the college, so how can he get into the product field, or what sort of hacks or framework or the suggestions you would share to all the young people who want to get into the product management job or PM as an intern or APM intern? So yeah, you can share your insights on this. Because
I don't really
because most of the companies, they're looking for the experienced person as a product manager. 1 to 2 year experience तो होना ही चाहिए. So after checking out their career page, then फिर थोड़ा भरोसा भी टूट जाता है कि हाँ थोड़ा और मेहनत करना पड़ेगा, या you have to do some extra work. Because और एक चीज़ है कि as a product manager you must have some one basic skill set. Matlab, you can start with product design, then you can jump into the product management,
Yeah.
or you must be a software developer, then you can go into the product management field. So I want to know कि how to directly reach out to the product management. So कुछ भी मतलब अगर suggestions या framework, any kind of thing you can share, that would be great.
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned, right, I think it's definitely very hard to get into PM directly,
Yeah.
and that's why I went the long route, right? Like I went via the growth sales route, and that's, I think, the safest way to, or like the best way to do it, because there's like a bunch of things you need as a product manager, right? So there's analytics, there's the design, as you mentioned, there's the technical aspects of it. So all of these routes are things that can kind of lead you to product management. So like, let's say you're an analyst somewhere. So from an analyst, you can become a product analyst. From a product analyst, you can become a PM. Like a lot of these companies have this on the leadership track. Like for example, Misho, they'll hire you as a product analyst, then they'll make you an APM, then they'll make you a PM. So yeah, like I think it also, yeah, again, it depends on what your strengths are, right? So just like exploring a lot, seeing what roles suit you, and seeing how those kind of feed into product management is, I think, yeah, it's something people should discover on their own. Because it depends very heavily from person to person. Like if you talk to like 6 people, they'll all have a different experience. So I don't really think I should be the one giving a framework here. But yeah, that's kind of my advice. Like look at what interests you leads into product management, and kind of try to build your profile accordingly.
Yeah, that's good. Also, I recently, around 1 week ago, I just read a blog, and they just discuss how to get into the PM. So I think I can share some kind of views on that. For example, if you want to apply for the PM, just shortlist the 10 to 12 product related companies which you want to work for. Then I think second point is to pick out the product and check out whether there is an app or website, and check their reviews. I think Play Store में reviews बहुत सारे होते हैं, so you can check the bad reviews which are not good, and take it as a problem statement, and just build a deck on it कि these are the features you can use to improve your customer acquisitions or retention. And yeah, just do a cold emailing to the senior PM or the other product manager or HR out there, and just see what the outcome will be. I think most of them will reply, and will get interview, at least interview call from that company. So I think other listeners can follow this if they get into the PM field. This is the one kind of advice. I think I will follow this one, because if you go to the career page, around 200 plus, 300 plus students are applying, and there is a very less chance you will get an opportunity and get into the interview round. So it's quite difficult for them to select which one is the good one, which one is the bad one. So in this way, in what I have told earlier, in this way you are helping indirectly. You are just helping them in adding the features, and they think हाँ वो person really help. अगर वो हमारे team में आएगा, then he will definitely be a good asset for our company. So ये एक छोटा सा advice था for all our listeners. Yeah. And
I think
would you like
so
to
you
add
mentioned
something?
the career page thing. You mentioned the career page thing, so that reminded me. So like I was saying, right, it's very important to have a good resume, and by good resume I mean you should look up a bunch of ways to write resumes. I think there's a few methods called star or reverse star methods, and don't just write stuff in like the first person. Like don't write I work on like this. There's like a bunch of videos that will explain it better than I will, but there are like a few key things you should cover. You should cover like the impact your work had. You should cover everything in like one sentence. So each point shouldn't be more than one sentence or like one line, depending on the format. And have like a very nice flow. Keep the wording consistent. Don't have spelling mistakes. Don't have grammatical mistakes. Like I think once all of this is done, right, the odds of your resume being shortlisted increase a lot more, because like interviewers or like recruiters, they don't spend more than 30 seconds on a resume. And like that's actually true. I've seen recruiters and they'll just look at it. If it seems decent, they'll be like, okay, fine, we can consider this person. If there's like a lot of mistakes, the points are haphazard, it doesn't really make sense, they'll just move on to the next one. So that's like a quick way to make sure like your resume might be shortlisted in this the career pages itself.
Okay. And for those who have not any kind of experience in the PM field, so will they add projects in the form of case studies, so that would be good to showcase in your resumes?
Yeah, definitely. So a resume is just anything you've done, right? So if it's a project, if it's a case competition you've won, if it's an internship in a different field as well, right?
Okay.
I think you should just word it in a way that a product manager would word their work. So essentially, just write the impact of the work, make sure you measure metrics. So if you're a software developer and you've optimized something, write that I optimized it by this much percent. Or like make sure you have a lot of numbers in your this thing, because a lot of decisions are data driven, right? So just the fact that you're presenting your resume in that way shows the recruiter that okay, you know what you're doing and you've made the effort to present your resume in that way. So that always gives you brand.
Yeah, that's a great advice to add on to the resume. And do you think there should be a portfolio which will also impact during our resume or interview round if you build a portfolio where you showcase your projects?
Yeah, definitely. Like having a website or a portfolio, like those things, they never hurt, and they actually just might help you. Recruiters might just stumble onto your profile, they might stumble onto your website, and then they might reach out to you from there. So yeah, that's definitely good to have always.
I just also recall a person, like he just built a website and one of the blog was seen by a recruiter of Razorpay.
Yeah.
And just he tweet on the just tweet and उसने मतलब tweet कर दिया and the Razorpay just check out कि हाँ इसने कुछ blog लिखा हुआ है and he just directly approach the employer approach to that student and he got selected as a PM intern. So I think blogs हो गया या website हो गई
exactly.
and case studies that will definitely help you in any point of your PM journey. So yeah, that's a great advice. And are you also interested in listening podcast, or you are a book lover or podcast both? So have you listened other podcasts? Yeah, you are new to the podcast field.
I usually listen to podcasts occasionally, but they usually are like just some random topic for me to fall asleep to. Like I listen to podcasts sometimes while falling asleep, but they're not really like related to careers of product management and stuff like that. Like for that, I just prefer books. I prefer to focus and read myself. But yeah, like I do listen to a few podcasts.
Yeah, that's nice. So before moving to the final question, there I have added a small rapid fire round from this year onward. So I think you just have to answer in 3 to 4 words and within 5 to 6 seconds. Okay. And yeah, I think there are, yeah, sure. And you will definitely enjoy these questions. And questions are around 7 to 8. So yeah, let's get started with the first one. So if you get a chance to work as a PM, then which two company would you like to work with? Any two?
I think I have to say Hacker because I'll get into trouble otherwise. And yeah, I think Google or something. Yeah.
Google. Nice. And the book which you read last time, name of the book which you read last time?
Good to Great.
Okay. And when are you most productive in a day? When?
Between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m.
10 p.m. and 2 a.m. That's nice. And two productive app or tool which you use in a day-to-day life to keep yourself motivated or keep yourself motivated. Yep. Any kind of tool on a daily basis.
Yeah. I use Notion quite a bit.
Same.
So Notion is one.
Yeah.
And I used to use this tool called Forest in college. It was basically an app that helped you focus, and it would basically cut access to your phone. So that was like a nice cute little app I used to use.
Okay, that's nice. Who is your inspiration in the PM field? Anyone could be. Who's the one which you inspire? Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to him or her.
I think like the managers I've had, like they're kind of cool people, and I love working with them.
Okay, that's nice. Two hobbies which do you have, or any kind of two hobbies which you enjoy doing?
I like badminton and cycling.
Badminton and cycling.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like riding the bicycle.
Okay. Which one part of the PM role you like and which one part you don't? Yeah.
I really like the ideation phase of it. I dislike the grunt work part of it, like the repetitive work.
Which three product you don't like? It could be anything. मतलब उसका UI अच्छा नहीं है या उसका features अच्छा नहीं है. Just for example, government websites वो UI बहुत खराब है उनके. So any three product और क्या अच्छा नहीं है उसमें से? Yep.
I was about to say government websites only.
Okay.
So yeah.
Let me give you other
government webs. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. Sure. Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
Let me give you other example. Yeah, it's quite annoying. Yeah, matlab silly. For example, I just recently installed the Bumble, and for the free trial, there is no benefit for the student out there. So after using for 1 week, I have to uninstall it because कुछ फायदा नहीं मिल रहा था. मतलब there is no connections out there for the free. You have to pay. You have to get a paid subscription. So yeah. And yours, any three products? It could be two. आप कोई बता दो तो हम दो.
I'll stick to government websites and also college websites, like the college portal we had for colleges. Yeah. I think like they require a good product manager.
I think that's it for the rapid fire round, and yeah, I hope you enjoy this round. And moving to the final part, any final piece of advice or suggestion would you like to share with all our listeners or viewers who really want to get into the PM role? Any kind of advice from you?
I think with things like tech or finance and other things, right? You usually see results in a relatively smaller time frame. So that's not really the case of product management. Like I mentioned, right? Like I've been doing this since my third year. I'm in my fifth year now. So it was like almost a 2-year journey to get here. So basically, just don't get disheartened if you don't see like great results immediately. Like it does take time. Right? That's the best piece of advice I have.
Okay. Yeah, that's good advice. And yeah, thank you, Rutul, for sharing your time and give some insightful information and knowledge about the PM field. And I hope everyone will inspire from this episode. And yeah, I will also put your LinkedIn account so that other can reach out to you and clear any kind of doubts. So yeah, thank you so much, Rutul, for your time. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.